for climate justice.
Global warming is a war!
Global warming is a war!
Of the rich against the poor!
Of the rich against the poor! Hey!
Fossil fuels have got to go!
Hey, hey! Hey, hey!
Fossil fuels have got to go!
Hey, hey! Hey, hey!
Fossil fuels have got to go!
Everybody shut it down! Everybody shut it down!
Shut it down!
Everybody shut it down!
Now's the time to shut it down! Keep your fossils in the ground! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Fossil fuels have got to go! Our street! 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 Stand up right there! Stand up right there!
What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Where do we want it? Everybody spread out, please. Can everyone spread out?
This is what love can do. I live for something more than me. Yeah. You too can be part of the moon. You too can be part of the moon. You too can be part of the moon. You too can be part of the yeah. You too can be part of the moon. You too can be part of the moon. You too can be part of the moon. You too can be part of the moon.
Thank y'all for being out here today. Yek tunal nahan nuntuga yuluan shuntuga rek. Dinamitik tachan tobangar. Hi everyone, my name is Yulu Wek, and I'm born and raised in so-called Echo Park in Los Angeles, which is Tongbaland. And I'm here to share a bit of my story with y'all. I grew up with a family of Cuban and Salvadorian refugees, where both of my parents worked hard to house and feed my sibling and I. And in a family plagued by survival, with my dad having served in the Salvadorian Civil War when he was 14 years old, and my mother who experienced domestic abuse as a kid. Here I was with my parents, living where we could afford, which is an apartment right by the 101 freeway in Echo Park. Environmental racism, where industries and infrastructure that pollute our earth are located in communities of color, many of you which may be familiar of. My parents still live in that apartment by the freeway, which is the very last frontier of a wave of gentrification that has displaced communities of color in Echo Park. My life experience is layered with teachings of US intervention and colonial genocide, systemic oppression masked as the American dream, environmental racism, and environmental destruction of my own ancestral homelands by the global north. I am indigenous to this landmass called America, known to the indigenous peoples as Turtle Island and Abya Yala, before colonization created borders and constructed racial identities like Latinx to erase our indigenous roots. And I cannot return to my homelands because environmental destruction is currently plaguing El Salvador and Cuba. And Those regions are expected to be uninhabitable because of climate change. And my heart yearns to steward those lands, but I do what I can here and honor and be in solidarity with the original peoples of this land, the so-called LA Basin, the Tongva Quiche people, the Chumash peoples, the Tataviam peoples, and the Hachiman Nation. I speak today to remind you of our complex origins. Many of us residents of LA are not ancestrally tied to these lands, and there is a blindness that many of us here experience, where we cannot see past the colonial structures of the city. But there was a thriving village here. In fact, many villages across the city where the Tongva peoples stewarded this land. Can you see their story in the landscape? Or have these buildings around us obstructed the sacred sites and burial grounds? Can you spot the species of native plants and animals around you? When we talk about climate destruction, can we look at our own immediate environments and recognize how we are living with the land in a human-centric and harmful way? How do we uplift the original peoples of these lands that are still here and that are on the front lines advocating for the protection of natural, cultural resources and environmental justice for all? How do we show up for them and not simply perpetuate colonial occupation and environmental deterioration? We need to ensure politicians in office know that we need to be protecting and restoring native habitats. We have to advocate for the restoration of the LA River, the Bologna wetlands, Los Cerritos wetlands, and Bolsa Chica. And if y'all don't know about those places, please get involved. We have a responsibility here as residents of this land. And we must also demand that indigenous communities here be in those leadership positions in the city, because they have been stewarding these lands since time immemorial, and they know how to best care for these lands. It is our responsibility. I'm a part of the International Indigenous Youth Council LA chapter. That's right. Founded by indigenous youth at Standing Rock during the Dakota Access Pipeline, protecting the water, whose mission is to organize youth through action and ceremony to regenerate the land and water. And we at IYC LA carry that mission for Tongva Quiche, Chumash, Tataviam, and Ahachiman Nation lands for the next 7 generations. And if you are interested in getting to know the work that we do, follow us on Instagram at iiyc.la, where we share all our programs, events, and actions so that we can continue to honor the land, honor the original peoples, and inherently take care of all life. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Josiah Edwards. I am the spokesperson for Sunrise Movement Los Angeles. I'm 21 years old, and I've been in this fight from the very beginning. Who keeps us safe? Who keeps us safe? What that means is that for the systems we have set up in order to protect us, that we defer to them. Understand? It means that we ensure that the folks who are supposed to be responsible for making sure that we are not interrupted by any distractions, and also that we're not interacting or dealing with those who would continue to operate as the forces of white supremacy, i.e. the LAPD. That means we gotta make sure that we defer to the folks who are in charge of protecting us, all right? Can we make that a community agreement right here and right now? On top of that, that also means we are not doing anything to put those of us who are on the front lines at risk. That means queer folks, black and brown folks, young people who are all here today. So that means if you are white. That means that if you hold a degree of privilege, you should not be putting at risk the lives of black and brown people who are up here fighting every single day just so that we can live. So it is my, I want to say esteemed pleasure, it is my honor to introduce to all of y'all one of my favorite people in Los Angeles, Aura Vasquez. Let's give it up for her.
I want to first start by thanking the Youth Climate Strikes for putting together this event and for asking me to speak tonight. And I can feel the energy buzzing through the crowd gathered here. It is my hope that we generate enough energy to take us down the long road to true environmental justice. We gather here today can be the most powerful phrase, but it needs the power of the people behind it. People who believe that change is possible. People who believe their demands will be met. And people who are willing to march, strike, and demand until they are. People like us are true generators of power. Without our work, our individual voices too often get drowned out in the static of dark fossil fuel money. And that's why we're coming together. So our collective voice cannot be drowned out, and our collective action cannot be ignored. And we see the results of actions right here in Los Angeles. Together, we got LA to end its resilience on coal. We closed 3 coastal gas plants that polluted our beautiful city of angels. We ended neighborhood oil drilling in low-income communities. And we secured the promise of our city, the second largest city in the country, powered by 100% renewable energy by 2030. We did this. But we must do more. And we need to stand together to demand Governor Newsom to stop approving new oil and gas permits and drop all existing oil and gas production. We demand that our state establish a 2,500 feet of health and safety setbacks between oil and gas rigs and our neighborhoods. We demand that California divest from fossil fuel funds and securities and enact the Biden's administration $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. We must and we need a Green New Deal for public schools right now. We're gathered here today to remind our elected officials, along with anyone in California and around the world, that the climate crisis hasn't stopped because of the global pandemic. We're gathered here today to demand environmental justice for the people of California, especially Black, Indigenous, people of color, who are the first to feel the effects of climate change and are the most adversely affected. We're gathered here today to secure a healthier and prosperous future for ourselves, our children, and future generations. But we can't do any of it without the power being generated by the youth of Los Angeles. You are the true engine that drives all of our future possibilities. We have proven that our collective power actions can make real change. When we gather and we do the work, we win. Thank you.
Edgar Mcgregor, who is going to talk to y'all about what he has done to protect our communities, He's a local climate activist and climate science undergrad at San Jose State University. Edgar has spent the last 792 days cleaning up trash at his local park and spends his free time studying how climate change affects Southern California's weather. Let's give it up for Edgar.
I take off my mask. All right, I've had a long day, so bear with me a little bit, but I want to talk to you all really quickly about climate grief. Yeah, that. I know it. I'm so worried about wildfires hitting my parks where I clean up every day, and it constantly makes me so scared whenever I see new smoke clouds appearing over the mountains. But I also want to talk to you guys about doing what you can, when you can, about the climate crisis. I want to offer you a potential solution to your climate grief. Let's see. Okay, here's an example. As I just said, as you just heard, I go out and clean up trash every single day. But I don't do this like, I don't fill entire dumpsters. I'm just spending 10, 20, 30 minutes filling a bucket of trash, making sure my park is as clean as possible. A few months ago, I got a picture, a tweet reply from one of my followers who said they picked up trash after they were inspired of what they saw on my Twitter feed. And that's great. But in their caption, they said that this trash was sitting on the hillside next to their house for years, and they never did anything about it. Until they saw me cleaning up trash at my local park and was inspired by it. But I wasn't doing anything huge. I just spent 10 minutes out there and cleaned up. And that's all it takes to inspire people. I want to remind everyone that there is no such thing as a perfect climate activist. We're all human, and we all only need to do what we can, when we can, about this crisis, because that is what truly inspires people. Not everyone can spend 12 hours a day working on climate. They got jobs, they got to go to school, they got bills to pay, they got things to do. But by showing others that all it takes to be a climate activist is doing what we can, when we can inspire everyone, from those who would love to act in the climate crisis to those who wouldn't otherwise act whatsoever, like the person who finally, after years, cleaned up the hillside next to their home. And so, that's all I really wanted to say. Please don't beat yourself up if there's something you cannot do to act in the climate crisis. If you don't have a choice, it's okay. As long as we are doing what we can, when we can have as many climate activists as possible, and we can take down the fossil fuel industry. Thank you.
City Hall Session, Los Angeles! You can follow them on Insta, that's it. Today, Vision is here to say, it's wake up time, the future is all about the youth. Come on now, let's welcome up Vision.
I've been to many protests, but it's nothing like when you in front of the future. We are in front of the future tonight. Some of you are the next leaders of today. You're the next leaders of tomorrow, and you're the next leader for the years to come. If you all didn't know, Gavin Newsom just signed a $15 billion climate deal, but it's absolutely nothing when you're signing bills and regulations, and it's all about the money, and it's all about to make people comfortable about something that's destroying this planet. Fossil fuels is destroying the planet. And the powers that be is not going to get the message until we explain it to them. Because when you are in power and the people is in power, they don't care about this. One thing that moves them, one thing that changes things is mass protest. Mass protest. That's what makes the powers that be change things. The future is all about the youth. The future is all about the youth. We have the best ideas. We have the best understanding. We have the best ideas that will bring about a change in a system that must be destroyed. See, when people is separated in organizations, when people is separated under race, when people is separated under class, that gives the powers that be more power. But when we come out in masses like we are tonight, in unity, in love, and respect, under one banner, humanity and the change of this climate, and to speak truth to power, it breaks down their understanding of things. It breaks down the false ideas that they have. Because if you recall, years ago, when Gore and others was speaking about what we're speaking about today, they turned a blind ear to it. They turned a blind eye to it. They didn't care. But now we see in 2021 what's happening to the planet. What's happening around us. And that's how we bring about change. Because the future is all about you. The future is all about us. It's many great people, many great speakers that came before me. And it's going to be great speakers after me. But one of the things that I want to leave you with, I don't want to take a whole lot of time. One of the things that I want to leave you with tonight is this. And this is respect to all my elders that's here. But they know it's the truth. We are the strongest. We are the most educated. We are the most boldest generation that has ever existed on the face of the earth. And the reason why we are the boldest, the strongest, the most educated is because we stand on the shoulders of the elders that came before us, that taught us, that trained us, that guided us. That as my mentor, Martin Luther King said, I may not get to the mountaintop, but he's seen within us, he's seen within our generation, all the struggles coming together and going over the mountaintop and making the powers that be understand what climate change is truly all about. What freedom, justice, and equality is all about. It's not about money. They make it about money, but it's not about money. It's about the next generations that's coming. And each and every day, we must stand up, we must be bold, we must be brave in our ideas, we must be strong in our points, we must be brave in everything that we do. Fear is the unknown. And we came out tonight in numbers, and some of us, if not all of us, are staying here. Shout out to my Black Unity brothers and sisters, because this is a 24-hour protest. This is a 24-hour protest. It's wake up time. It's all about the future. It's all about the youth. Peace and blessings.
So again, my name is Brian Todega. As Josiah mentioned before, I'm a candidate for Los Angeles City Council District 15, which includes the diverse and dynamic neighborhoods of Watts, Harbor Gateway, where I live, Harbor City, Wilmington, and San Pedro. You see, District 15 is a heavily industrialized district. We have 2,347 oil and gas wells. 2,347 oil and gas wells in City of 15. The highest amount of oil activity in the city of LA. What does that look like? In communities like Wilmington and Harbor City, we got families going home, going to school, going to work, in places where our oil drilling site is right behind them. right behind their yard, right behind their fences. In places like Harbor Gateway, where I'm from, we live right next door to 2 warehouses and a factory. I have cousins and loved ones who developed asthma, a sister who got bronchitis, that's inflammation of the lungs, at a young age, and to this date, her lung capacity has been weakened as a result of the air pollution. District 15, all the air pollution that we are bombarded with from industrial waste have resulted in our communities having a higher risk of asthma, cancer, and miscarriages and more. And so, a couple years ago, when I started learning about climate change, and I read that climate report that Josiah alluded to before, I remember feeling so scared, honestly, so frustrated because of the natural disasters and the climate catastrophe that we're on path for if our government doesn't act. But I also remember feeling so alone, because despite what was going on in my neighborhood, in my community, and all across the world, our government, the people in charge, were sitting on their hands. They were doing nothing. And in that frustration, in that loneliness and that fear, I found a community in the Sunrise Movement. And that same, let's give it up for the Sunrise Movement, everybody. That same year, I attended the 2019 Global Climate Strike, the biggest, as part of the largest climate protest in world history. We did that, y'all. Give a round of applause. And in that experience, in that moment, I was no longer feeling frustrated. I was feeling what I wasn't feeling a long time before, which was hope. Hope because despite the gravity of this crisis, people from all walks of life, all ages, all colors, were coming together, taking a stand, saying enough is enough, and that we need our government to take action, get off their asses, and do something about this climate crisis. And so seeing all of y'all here today, all the incredible people, despite the pandemic that we're in, despite all the crisis we've gone through, brings me even much more hope. Because this is how we win. This is how we win. This is how we get a Green New Deal. This is how we create transformative change. It's through people power. That's one thing, despite all the money and all the lobbyists, all these fossil executives have, they don't have people power. When was the last time y'all ever saw lobbyists marching on the streets of Los Angeles? Never. Because they don't have the people on their side. And so this is how we win. This is how we get a Green New Deal. We are the generation of the Green New Deal. And through solidarity together, we'll transform our society, we'll uproot the system, and create one that is just, that is equitable, that is moral, that says it is not okay to sacrifice the health of human beings for corporate profits. One that says that everyone, regardless of where you live, your zip code, your color, that you have a right to clean air, clean water, and healthy, high-quality food. And together, through solidarity, we'll make it happen. And thank you, it was a
pleasure. In our current city government, we see failure after failure after failure. It's hard to find somebody who will actually stand up and represent the interests of not only their constituents, but those who are the least among us. Unhoused people, young people who don't even get the chance to vote, Black and brown folks, poor and working class folks. Our next speaker has continued to stand alongside us as we've made demands not only for the reallocation of police resources to our communities who need it most, not only so that we could have investments in climate action, not only so that young people have the opportunity to have a livable future, not only so that unhoused folks have the opportunity to be housed, not only so that Black and brown folks could have their lives supported, but because they know that what they are doing is that which is right. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to bring up to y'all somebody who has been standing alongside us from the very beginning, who has listened to the voices of organizers and activists when we were marching in the streets saying, defund the police, when we were saying we need climate action now, when we were saying we want unhoused people housed. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Council Member Mike Bonin. Let's give him a warm welcome. Come on up.
follow that. Wow, I was actually nervous coming here tonight because I figured people were going to say, who let the old guy on stage? But I wanted to come here tonight to say thank you to the Youth Climate Strike, to say thank you to Sunrise, to say thank you to Extinction Rebellion, to say thank you to all of you. I'm the father of a 7-year-old, and I worry every single day about what we are leaving him and his generation and what we are leaving you and your generation. So I wanted to stand here tonight on this land which was and is sacred tribal land to say thank you to those of you doing the sacred work to save this planet for your generation and the generations that come after. Already, you have done so much that I want to salute, and I want to honor, and I want to recognize. Just a few days ago, because of the work that you were engaged in, just over the hill here, the County Board of Supervisors said no to oil drilling within 2,500 feet of sensitive uses. Because of you, really just weeks after the dawn of the Sunrise Movement, youth around Los Angeles rose up and forced LADWP and me and the mayor and everybody else in the city to commit that we will not refuel and repower gas plants on the coast of Los Angeles. Because of you and the demonstrations you held outside of DWP, you gave Aura Vasquez the wind at her back and the energy to make sure that that board approved the biggest and the best and the most affordable solar deal in the history of the country. And because of the work you are doing, we are beginning the path, and we are freaking gonna get there, to 100% clean energy in Los Angeles. When that report from the IPCC came out a few weeks ago, that was a moment for a lot of us of a lot of grief and a lot of heartache. And some people looked at me and said, you know what? I don't think we have the power to change this. I want to tell you, you have the power to change this. Your generation has more creativity, more energy, more valuable impatience than any I have seen. And you live in Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, we have so much power to make change. We control the biggest things that can be forces for bad or forces for good. We own LADWP. It can be a source of pollution or a source of clean energy. We own the Port of Los Angeles. We own LAX. We can make those go from forces of evil to forces of good. We help run LA Metro, one of the biggest transit agencies in the country. We're going electric. We can make that a force for good. And here in the city of Los Angeles and in all the cities around, we decide what gets built, how it gets built, what it gets built out of, and where it gets built. That is a tremendous amount of power to influence for good. And that is why in this building, before the end of this year, we are going to get the buffer zone approved here. We are going to win the Stand LA legislation, and we are going to set the path for getting fossil fuel extraction and storage out of Los Angeles for good. Sometimes folks my age, Generation X or the boomers, will say, all right, we're with you, but you're a little too impatient, you're a little too loud, you're a little too pushy. Don't listen to them. The world is on fire. Keep their feet to the fire. Keep my feet to the fire. Keep the feet to the fire of everybody in this building, in the Hall of Administration, in Sacramento, and in Washington. Sometimes a lot of us are with you, but we ain't moving fast enough. We ain't keeping up with you. Make us keep up. Never give up. Do not sit back. You have the power. We can make this happen by following you. Thank you.
Kenneth's campaign has raised the most money in small dollar donations for any local 2022 campaign, and we are proud that Youth Climate Strike Los Angeles has endorsed Kenneth Mejia and support his campaign that is for and by the people. Let's give it up for Kenneth Mejia!
Power to the people! One more time, power to the people! So my name is Kenneth Mejia. I am a candidate for city controller. Like Josiah said, it's the city's accountant and auditor, and I've been doing that for 11 years as a CPA. And how amazing would it be if we actually had a progressive in that office as the city's watchdog to hold the powerful accountable? Does that sound good? And so the city's finances are not that easily transparent, or they're not that easily accessible. And so what we've been trying to do since we launched in December is making the city's finances extremely transparent and extremely accessible. So for example, have you all seen that billboard on Olympic and Crenshaw? If you haven't seen it, there's a 1,200 square foot billboard that shows some of the city's budget for this year. Do you know what it shows? It shows that $3.1 billion goes to the police. It shows that $800 million is going to homelessness. It shows that around $230 million is only going to housing, and only $300 million is going to transportation. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to put those cities' finances on blast for you all to see, because although we're not the policymakers, we can put this information out there so that you guys can lobby your council members, the mayor, so they can enact that change. Am I right? And when it comes to the city's money, right? The cool thing about money, and as an accountant, is you could see where the money's going. And if we're spending close to 30% of the city's budget on the police, which is $3.1 billion, and in the mayor's budget this year, he's only spending $1.1 million on the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office. So when you compare $3 billion and $1 million, that's bullshit, right? And that's why we're here running for city controller, to put these finances on blast and hold the city accountable for these decisions. From 2020 to this year, the city has spent close to $224 million on fuel from vendors like BP, the Arizona Nuclear Power Project, the Koch brothers, and the largest one, SoCal Gas. And we know SoCal Gas fucked up big time in the valley at Aliso Canyon, right? So oil and gas, we're gonna shut it down. What are we gonna do? Exactly, and as city controller, we can perform audits and provide recommendations to ensure that all 800 active oil wells are shut down. And we can provide that cost to ensure that that happens. We should expropriate, use eminent domain. Take the city's lawsuit, because as my councilmember Mike Bonin said, this is an emergency, am I right? Instead of giving $3 billion to the police, how about we give billions of dollars to saving our future? Does that sound good? And so, you know, this is important. 2022 is going to be huge, and we got to support progressives that are running for office so that they can help Mike Bonin in office, so that we can get to 100% clean renewable energy by 2030. Does that sound good? So that we can have 2,500 setbacks, so that we don't have oil and gas wells literally in our backyard. Am I right? And as a city controller, you can damn well make certain and I will give all the data and hold power accountable so that we can get to these future that could save our children and so that we have a future to believe in. Because right now we need to fight climate catastrophe, and what we got right now is bullshit. So let's do this. Oil and gas, shut it down. Oil and gas. Oil and gas. Thank you. I'm Kenneth Mejia. Thank you, Youth Climate Strike LA, for endorsing this, and let's get it. Don't fuck with our green dream. Hey, yeah, yeah, we're gonna cause a scene. Hey, yeah, yeah, these times have got to mean. Hey, yeah, yeah, don't fuck with our green dream.
Resistance. We've had that moment. We've also demonstrated our anger as we march through the streets to yell for climate justice. We've experienced both anger and joy. But what we've yet to do is gather as a community and collectively mourn and experience the sorrow that so many of our brothers and sisters are experiencing today. As we recognize the pain and suffering that has been inflicted upon us. So what you're gonna do is, when the candles are lined up, they're gonna put them alight. We're all gonna come together. We're gonna have a few speakers come up who are going to continue this portion of the program. And we're gonna be in community with one another, all right?
Hell yeah.
Until we can't. This is not a big ceremony. It is a symbolic gesture of ceremonial. Get the fuck out the way. Hand it over because y'all got it, and we know you got it. We're cheering for you. We're praying for you, and we're letting go because we know it's time. So Occupy LA. South Central Farm, Crenshaw, downtown LA Crenshaw, downtown Crenshaw, Africa Town, West Side, El Valle, the Valley, K-Town, Little Tokyo is a better place for all of you. Chinatown, all of it, all these little pockets of culture and flavor are nothing without the future in your hearts when you stand to rise against the bullshit. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I humbly pass this bullhorn over to Youth Climate Strike LA so they can take the message until our ears bleed, until their ears bleed, until the county, the city, the state, and the federal
Generation Z. You mean the world to me. You've welcomed me with warm but open arms, formed a canopy of trees, so I can watch the stars in peace, live temporarily in this makeshift escape, shade from the fire's breath. I can't explain how grateful I am to each of you. You who linked arms when the storm was already in reach. You who brought your charm when we lost our arms in the whirlwind. You who trudged on in the darkness alone when smoke from the storm hid the layer of light beneath. My mind's been blue these days, swallowed by the ocean's empty loneliness. I feel the grief of nature's miracles fading. In the blink of a lizard's eye, the swoosh of a blackbird's fly, the cry of the next generation asking us why we let this happen. In the meantime, I'd like to say goodbye to places I may never see again. New Orleans, the bustle, the beats, the Great Barrier Reef I haven't seen. Chicago, I know you well. Venice, you put me in a spell. Shanghai, I saw you years ago. I'll miss you too. And the Arctic that I dreamed to see may soon lose its ice completely, to melt away. As the planet endures its heat, its hurt, I think of all the ways this moment could reverberate. Your shouts, your screams, solidifying dreams of a better world. These things I can grasp. But to ask me to accept the lies, the crack of the whip of wealthy millionaires smoking fossil fuels who want the last say of deciding how many days we have left. These things, they hurt my brain. It's hard to explain how we got to this point of such despair, lackluster air, I cannot breathe. You tell us to be citizens of the world, to show kindness to one as one does to others, to be fair. When will you lead by example? I can shatter your world if it means constructing my home. Dismantling the system is the only way you will try to listen when we bust the filibuster and realize the justice of everyone we know. Grant women the justice to be whoever they want, a career or not, a future where their children will be well and can realize their dreams. They believe in themselves. I can't take these things for granted. They are seeds. Stop killing my dreams with your rules, your poison punch that belongs in the ground. The remains of treasured fossils from so long ago, you burn them to pollute my air. Where do we go from here as the end approaches near and no one wants to hear what we have to say? They play the game, the schism of red and blue. Blue will not win us in the end. Uproot the long-held broken system of policymakers playing games. Make them do what you need them to do. Tell me who you need me to be, to seize this moment, to set us free.
I'm a northern star, I'm a northern star. No matter how dark they are, I'm a northern. And you're your northern star, you're your northern star. No matter how dark they are, you're your northern. We have to survive this future together. It's gonna take everything.
I have no control up here. I've requested so many songs and they say no every time. I like this song though. I took her out, it was a Friday night. I woke alone to get the feeling right. We started making out, she took off my pants, then I turned on the TV. And that's about the time she walked away from me. Nobody lets you make its way. Get into it, yo. Come out with a truck, get into it, yo. If you go to church, I said get into it, yo. I just shake, got a motherfucking get into it, yo. And I said I just gotta walk, get into it, yo. Come out with a truck, get into it, yo. If you go to church, get into it, yo. If she ain't got a motherfucking get into it, yo. Yeah, you just.
Snoop Dogg and D.R.E.
I love you too. I mean, it seems daunting. It seems like how are people going to change behavior? But we've changed our behavior in the past. You know, think about like hitchhiking. Like people would hitchhike, and it was a socially acceptable thing. We don't do that anymore. We learned. It's a good analogy. I didn't have a plan. You know, I'm just talking. But I appreciate each and every one of you for coming out. It means a lot. And I feel like you can feel the human spirit is real, and the human spirit is powerful, and I think we need to use it and save everything, and it's on us, and we can do it, okay? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's really do it. We can do it. Now, about 3 years ago, I hung out with these two guys to my right for like the first time, and we did a session at Benny's apartment in New York City. And it was my first time like making music in New York City. It was a special feeling in the air. And I said, I really want to make a song about the climate crisis and like what's going on. And I swear to God, I don't know how, but in like 45 minutes, we had like made the song. And it was really like a special, like it felt like, I'm not necessarily religious, but it felt like weirdly divine, you know? And so we made this song. It's called Earth, and we got over 30 artists to be on this one song. And we raised like millions of dollars for, protecting this planet. And we're still raising money, and every time you stream the song or watch the song, it counts towards the funds that we're collecting.
Toro. I'm an organizer for Youth Climate Strike Los Angeles, specifically the comms co-lead, and I'm here today at the 12-hour mark of our 24-hour global climate strike here in front of LA City Hall. We started in Pershing Square. We had lots of teach-ins about environmental justice, and then we marched over here, and we had speakers, performers, and this is all in an effort to call on elected officials for more urgent legislation and climate action, because we don't have time. We are feeling the effects of the climate crisis right now. People are getting sick, frontline communities are developing cancer, they're dying, and so right now is a time where we need action. And we are still staying another 12 hours. We're here for 24 hours in total. And so we hope that Governor Newsom is listening to us, that our local elected officials are listening to us, because especially as youth, it's super important that they hear that we still have power. Additionally, over the pandemic, we couldn't do much. So this is our big comeback. This is truly all people power gathered into one to show that we are still here and that we can make an impact, especially for the earth and the people on this planet.